After 20 years of marriage, the 39-year-old sexy mother of my two girls and love of my life announced to me that she was going out with a friend from work tomorrow evening. Helen and I were teenagers when we got married. We had been dating for less than a year when she became pregnant with my girl. We were madly in love, got married, and welcomed Christy into the world 7 months later. We had a wonderful, loving marriage and two beautiful children who both loved their parents. I started my own landscaping business, which grew into a multi-million-dollar business that has allowed us to live wonderful, fulfilling lives. Never in a million years would I have expected a speech like that from my wife. It hit me like a ton of bricks as I sat on the sofa with a glass of scotch, and she explained that she had been depressed and unhappy since the children left for university. In my opinion, we had the perfect marriage, and this news hit me hard. Helen explained that Tommy from accounting was a close friend of hers and had helped her cope with her depression, which was news to me. It was strange because she didn't say anything about being depressed or even upset. The thought that my wife allowed another man to help her deal with her feelings was painful, but the news that she wanted to be with him killed me mentally. It turns out that Tommy is married, has 3 little girls, and is posing as some kind of advisor when in fact he is just a predator ready to prey on any unsuspecting victim. Sexy married women are easy targets for Tommy because he knows they are vulnerable and uncommitted. John, I can't do this behind your back, and I hope you understand, but I just need to do this for myself. I know it sounds selfish, but give me this one night to see how it goes. Of course I was furious and I wanted to scream, but I knew my wife and I knew this was going to happen. Once she decided to do something, there was no turning back. When she finished her announcement, I sat expressionless, just looking at her, while she sat nervously across from me, alone, on the love seat. The silence was deafening as I refused to allow myself to speak. Instead, I calmly finished my scotch, stood up, and headed out of the room. John, don't ignore me. Stop sulking and acting childish. This is happening, and I needed to tell you before I did anything. I would never cheat on you, and I need you to know everything that's going on. We've always been honest with each other, and I will never lie to you, baby. I stood looking at this woman with what must have been a deathly expression on her face because I saw her pull her knees to her chest and curl up when I looked back at her. I silently went up to our bedroom and packed 2 days' worth of clothes and toiletries, and then walked past Helen again, without saying a word, to my car in the garage. She followed me, screaming as I passed her. Please, John, don't go. Everything will be fine. It's just one date, that's all, and everything will end. Just for one night, of course. You can give it to me after 20 years. As I drove away, I shook my head, not believing what she was spewing. That Thursday evening, I checked into the Ritz-Carlton. Yeah, the Ritz-Carlton, $400 a night, and I didn't give a shit. If I was going to suffer, I was going to at least enjoy my place. The calls and texts started immediately, and after sending one reply message, I blocked her number. I simply wrote that I would not contact her until I returned home on Saturday after her betrayal. I'm sure those words hurt her deeply. The next day at work, I asked my secretary to block all calls from my wife and told security not to let her into the building. I had already put my plan into action and would not allow it to be changed. I'm John Casey, a man of action. At work and among my friends, I am known as a responsible person, someone who gets things done. People know I do what I say and look to me as a leader. At home, I would become an obedient, laid-back guy, eager to please and shed my macho alter ego. This has worked for the last 20 years. However, it appears that I miscalculated the effect. Looking back, I realized that I should have been more demanding and calm in my family life. But I loved my wife and made her queen. I remember once reading and grinning at this quote, but now I'm not laughing. Treat her like a queen, and she'll treat you like a servant. These words became my reality, but I would not allow this to happen. On Friday morning, I called my brother, who works as a detective in Miami, and asked him for some help. I explained what I needed, and he dialed the number of one of his colleagues, Peter Clift, a private investigator. Peter, this is Sergeant Davis. How are you, my friend? Listen, My brother and I are on the phone and he needs your help tonight. I'm asking a favor and I need you to send one of your men to tail his wife tonight. Yes, tonight. We need to see who she's with and get me as much information as possible about this guy by Saturday morning. I want you to check his numbers and give me his home address and phone number and text me this evening. We'd love to get some photos of this couple. You know what we need. This could happen tomorrow, but today we just need information about this person. Davis, this is urgent notice, but I owe you a big debt, so I will do it. You need the criminal's phone number and address tonight and as soon as possible, and the rest of the photos and stuff we'll dig up tomorrow. What are you giving me to work with? Yes, this is what we need now. I will send my wife's address, what time she is leaving, and also the name of her boyfriend. I'm told he works with her at Brokers Unlimited, and his name is Tommy, so this shouldn't be too difficult for you, my friend. His wife gets home at 5 p.m., but we don't know what time the date starts, so you'll need a man out before 5 p.m. to follow his wife when he picks her up. That's all we need. Send me your wife's address and I'll take care of it for you, my friend. John listened to the conversation with great attention and smiled when his brother hung up. His plan was in motion, and he was about to shock his unsuspecting cheating wife. John's plan required immediate action as time was running out, so during the cheating couple's dinner, John was also going to visit Tommy's wife and explain what was happening and where their spouses were at that moment. The next call was to one of his longtime friends, Joe, and he asked him for the number of the escort service he was using. Joe had a hard time with the divorce and never intended to marry again. He took care of his sexual needs with the help of an escort, and now John finally understood why. No cheating, just sex, and probably a lot cheaper than having a cheating wife. The call went well, and he was able to arrange an overnight date with a young, sexy blonde. He suggested an additional $1,000 tip due to the unusual circumstances. John explained that he needed experience with a girl and that he was going through a breakup. The experience with a girl is a recharge when a girl treats you like she is your loving friend from the moment you meet. He explained that there would be no trouble, but the girl should understand the situation in case a wife appears. He explained that if this happens, she also shouldn't have revealed that she was a paid escort, but a girl he met the night before. John knew his wife would come and see them in bed together. If she wanted to go on a date with another man, he was going to answer her in the same way, but with some sophistication. They were to meet at the hotel, have a drink, and get to know each other better before the fun began, and then his plan was to be put into action. While in real estate, Helen had an open house every Saturday and never got home before 6 p.m. This had been one of her busiest days, and this Saturday was no different. Returning to Thursday evening, when Helen declared her independence. After he left, she sat on the sofa thinking about their conversation and angrily addressed the empty room. I can't believe he acted so childish. The way he left without saying a word. What a jerk he was. Helen tried to call John and text him. She got even angrier because he didn't respond until that one text message arrived. A single text message that mentioned betrayal made her cringe and reconsider her plans. When she viewed the date as just a fun night out and not as cheating, she put the thoughts of betrayal out of her mind. She thought to herself, this is just one fun night. John will just have to get through this and we'll get back to normal. He's overreacting, but he'll forgive me and I'll make it up to him tomorrow night. He can't refuse Mona's bed, and I know exactly how to make him survive it. On Friday evening, she returned home to an empty house and reconsidered her plans. Should she go on a date with Tommy or call it all off and call John to come back? She was looking forward to a fun evening and knew that she would carry out her plans. She took a warm bath, shaved her legs, applied the best scented lotion, and sat down at the vanity table, transforming her pretty face into a sultry woman. She saw the sexy girl reflected in the mirror and smiled as she finished styling her long hair. She then removed the tags from the short, sexy dress and hung it on the mirror. She pulled on the stockings she had never worn for John and attached them to the new garter belt she had purchased at Nordstrom earlier that day. As she pulled on the stockings and touched them gently, she remembered all the times John had asked her to dress sexy. She felt a pang of guilt remembering Valentine's Day, when John brought home a set of sexy Victoria's Secrets lingerie and the way she had acted. She could still see the pain on his face when she asked him if he thought she was a slut and that she wouldn't wear things like that. She didn't move for more than a minute, thinking about how she had bought herself a pair of slutty stockings and garters that she was going to wear for another man. It got her thinking, and for the first time, she thought about cutting short her date and calling it off. She can still hear John's conversation, accusing her of betrayal. It didn't take her too long to get over the guilt of giving her beau something that she had never given John. She put on a silk dress, zipped it up, and was happy with her decision to not wear a bra. The result was amazing. She stood in front of the full-length mirror, looking at her long legs in black nylon stockings and high heels. Her large breasts swayed under her dress. Oh, God, I look like a little slut, but this is so much fun. I can't wait to see Tommy's face when he sees me, but I must clarify that there will be no sex tonight. Only dinner and dancing. She tried to convince herself that it was just a date and nothing more, but deep down, she knew that she had desires that she had to control. The excitement of her upcoming date with Tommy had been all she had been thinking about for the past month, and it was going to happen tonight. She was going to have fun, despite her husband's childish behavior. Helen knew John would understand and let her have fun because he always let her do as she wanted. She loved him for it. That's when the last phone call came from John. John decided to give Helen one more chance to stop this speeding train and save their marriage. It was hard for John to swallow his pride and make that call, but his love for Helen was still deep and he would have taken her back if she had stopped it. He planned to sacrifice his dignity, humiliate himself, and beg her to change her mind and not go on this date. Helen felt nervous and guilty when she saw John calling. She saw how sexy she looked in the mirror and knew that her thoughts were far from noble. But she really needed to hear John and make him understand and accept her decision. John, thank you for calling me. I miss you so much and love you. When are you coming home, baby? Hi, Helen. I love you too, and that's why I decided to call you. I miss you so much and my heart is breaking for what you said you wanted to do. I'm begging you not to go on this date. Please just stay home and I will come and do whatever you want. I swear I will make you happy and be the man you need me to be. If I don't do something, I can fix it, and I just want to be with you. Could you please cancel this date for our sake and save our marriage? Please, Helen. She heard his voice crack and felt sorry for John. It sounded weak and pathetic. Her big, strong man was crying and begging her to stop, which gave her an undue sense of power. She knew that he loved her, and that John would forgive her if he understood her feelings. Their history together, along with their children and his love, was too strong, and she knew they would be together forever. Oh, John, I love you so much, and I can't wait to spend the rest of our lives together. I need to do this tonight, and it has nothing to do with our love for each other. It's just one night for me to go out and do something stupid. Please understand and give it to me once, and I promise that I will be yours again forever. I know you're hurting, and I'm sorry about it, but you're making a lot more out of it than it really is. I'm just having dinner and a few drinks with a friend, that's all. Nothing will happen, and tonight I will be home, and yours forever. I know you'll understand this when it's all over. Tomorrow we will talk, and you can have me back as your wife. I love you, John, but I have to go, she said with tears in her eyes. She wanted to hang up, but heard her husband's plea when she ended the call. She wiped her eyes, trying not to ruin her makeup, looked at herself in the mirror, and said to her reflection, I'm sure he thinks I'm being a bitch for this, but John, I'm sorry. I have to do this for myself. Please do not be angry. She straightened her hair, touched up her lips, sprayed herself with perfume, and tried to get John out of her head. Returning to his hotel room, John heard the call end and just stared at his phone. John wiped his eyes and felt the anger boiling inside again. He had just begged his wife not to go on this date, and she basically told him that this was happening and that tomorrow everything would be fine and he would be an understanding husband. A feeling of grief overwhelmed him when at that moment he realized that he had lost her, the only woman he had loved and been with for the past 20 years. Peter, a private investigator, was in his white van across the street from their home shortly before 5 p.m., watching Helen pull into the garage. An hour later, he watched as a car pulled into the driveway. Peter wrote down the license plate number, made a few calls, and within 10 minutes was sending Davis and John the requested information. The home phony number and address appeared on Davis and John's phones before the couple even went on their date. When Tommy entered the house, he saw the sadness in Helen's eyes. He realized that she was having a moment of uncertainty and guilt. He's seen it all before. The wife suddenly realizes that she is doing something outside the marriage and reconsiders her plans. He knew he had to act quickly, and he knew exactly what to say. "Helen, what happened? You look so sad." "Tommy, maybe we shouldn't do this? I thought about John and how he asked me not to date you. I feel so guilty, like I've already betrayed him," she said as a tear rolled down her face. Tommy rushed to the couch, hugged her, and used his experience to solve her problems. It took about an hour, but he was a ladies' man and understood a woman's feelings and thought process. He was going to use his skills to manipulate her into changing her mind. He loved a challenge. "It's okay, Helen. We don't have to do this, and I completely understand. You could never go anywhere alone with anyone, not even to dinner or a movie. He just doesn't understand that we're just friends. Guys like him want to protect their wives from predators, but if he only knew how much I care about you as a friend, I bet he wouldn't mind. I have to be honest. I'm disappointed that we can't be together tonight, but I understand. I was really looking forward to your company, and I really wanted to try this new restaurant. Hey, I have an idea. Why don't we just have dinner and then I'll take you home? Surely he wouldn't be upset if you went out to dinner with a friend." His casual attitude reassured Helen that dinner would be fine. And besides, she was fully dressed, and deep down, she wanted it anyway. At 7 p.m., Peter watched as the couple drove off and headed to a downtown restaurant and told Davis and John where they ended up. He continued to keep them updated throughout the evening. Photos were easy to take, and Peter spent the next 4 hours photographing the two at dinner. They held hands as they entered the dance club. They danced together, kissing and acting like a couple in love. He also took several videos of them slow dancing, while Tommy caressed her ass and breasts and kissed her on the dance floor. Peter sent all the photos and videos before sunrise the next morning. At exactly 8 p.m., John called Helen's father, Brian. They had been close friends and golf buddies for years and told him the bad news. "Hello, Brian. It's John." "Hey, John, are we still playing golf on Sunday?" "I'm not sure, but I have bad news. Right now, your daughter is on a date with a man from work. I thought our relationship was fine, but she explained that she wanted more and was dating this guy. You know I love you and Maggie, but I'm not going to put up with this, and I consider our marriage over. She violated our marriage contract, and I will not forgive her for this betrayal. I just want you to know the reason for the events that will happen. I'm sorry it has to end this way." "John, are you saying that she's going to date another guy? Are you sure? This doesn't sound like my girl." "Brian, I have a private detective watching them right now at dinner. She's hanging out with that bastard while we're talking. At this very moment, she betrays me, our marriage, and our children. I'm sorry, this is hard for me, but I respect you and want you to know the truth." "John, I'm so sorry. Please don't do anything crazy. I know she loves you, and maybe you two can work this out." "Sorry, Brian, I've had enough. I'll call you soon. Let's reschedule the meeting for next Sunday. Looks like it's going to be a terrible weekend." After receiving the scammer's address from a private investigator, John drove 20 minutes to Tommy's house to meet Stella, his wife. She looked confused when John asked her if she was Mrs. Brooks, Tommy's wife. The 30-year-old mother of 3 answered the door wearing tight jeans and a lace top that showed off her amazing breasts. John forced himself to look into her eyes after she opened the door and avoid any embarrassment. "Are you Mrs. Brooks, Tommy's wife?" "Yes. Is he okay?" "Oh, he's in good hands, believe me. He works with my wife. Can I come in for a minute?" They sat in the living room while John broke the news. "Mrs. Brooks, I'm sorry to tell you this, but at this very moment your loving husband Tommy and my future ex-wife are on a date. Yes, my beautiful wife just explained to me yesterday that she needs to spread her wings, and that your wonderful husband has been so kind to her that she wanted to repay his kindness. Are you sure this is the same man? My Tommy plays cards on Friday night. Mrs. Brooks, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't sure. My private detective is watching them at this very moment. I will have photos and videos to share with you, but I felt you needed to know. I felt terrible leaving her crying, and I knew the affair probably ruined their marriage, but that's the game Tommy decided to play. Saturday morning. When breakfast arrived, John sat down and poured himself a cup of the hotel's signature coffee. The scent was pleasant, and he smiled as he relaxed in his soft bed. All the comfort and good feelings he had enjoyed were replaced by disgust and bitterness when he opened the PI photos on his phone. The only good news was that she was home by 1 a.m., and there was no sexual activity that evening. John's rage grew as he saw his wife and her betrayal. Tears filled his eyes. Watching the video of them kissing and her lover's hand on her ass destroyed any hope of reconciliation in his mind. He also noticed that she had put on stockings for her boyfriend and remembered how she acted when he gave the same gift a few months ago. Her betrayal and disrespect were more than he could bear. He was filled with humiliation and feelings of inferiority, which eventually gave way again to anger. Apparently, Tommy convinced Helen to continue their date after dinner and go with him to his favorite dance club. This was the downfall of her marriage, and deep down she knew it was wrong before agreeing to leave. But she wanted to experience it just this one time. With tears in his eyes, John felt a sadness he had never felt before. He cried when his mother died and shed tears for some of his departed friends, but it was a heartbreaking pain that he never knew existed. When he watched the video for the third time, stopping at the moment when Tommy was rubbing her ass and allowing her to see her stockings, he shouted, "To no one! You will pay for this!" He thought it over and thought to himself, she may not have had sex with that bastard, but what she did was unacceptable, disrespectful, hurtful, and a complete betrayal of his marriage. Saturday afternoon. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he met Candy at the hotel, and they spent the next 2 hours getting to know each other. John made it clear what he wanted, and Candy was the perfect choice for his plan. They returned to his house a little after 4 p.m. and were in his bed by 5 p.m. Before going to bed, John put down a note he had prepared for Helen, which read, "Helen, last night you broke our prenuptial agreement and wedding vows, not to mention my heart. From the moment you broke this contract, I no longer consider us married. Yes, legally we are still together, but the contract has been terminated, and now we are both free to do as we please. I plan to take the master bedroom since this is my home. You are welcome in any other room in the house, but you are no longer welcome in my bed. Your cloths and other things are in the geese rooms. Please respect my personal space. You got what you wanted, your freedom, and now I have mine. I hope you are happy with your decision and your new life. With love, your ex-husband, John." He took off his wedding ring and placed it on top of the letter on the front door. Holding it at eye level, he took one of his collectible knives and slid the blade into the center of the ring, through the letter, and stabbed it deep into the wooden door. It was the first thing Helen saw when she returned home that evening. 6:10 p.m. When Helen came home from work, she noticed a knife in the door and was disturbed by the sight. Obviously, something like this would give a normal person goosebumps. She slowly approached the door, looking around for anything else out of place. As she got closer, she saw a note addressed to her with John's engagement ring. Her heart began to beat wildly, and tears streamed down her cheeks as she read the letter. With the ring and letter in hand, she ran into the house looking for John to tell him that she didn't want him to leave her. She screamed his name in the dark house, standing in the hallway and sobbing. The house was silent, except for some sounds coming from the bedroom. She walked up the stairs and listened at the door for the sounds of lovemaking, and then angrily opened the door to find a young, sexy woman riding her husband cowboy style. She stood in front of the bed in shock, watching this young girl having sex in their marital bed. Helen was furious and shouted at her husband. "How could you? You bastard!" she screamed, running out of the house to her car. With anger and tears rolling from her eyes, she drove to her sister Mary's house. After she got there and was able to stop crying, she explained to Mary how she had found her husband in bed and didn't know where else to go. Her sister tried to console her and calm her down. "This doesn't sound like John. Of all people, I would never have thought that he would cheat on you. He always showed you so much love and respected you more than any other man I know. I was always jealous of the attention and affection he gave you. This doesn't look like him. Did anything else happen? What do you think caused this, Helen?" Crying, she spoke in a low voice. "I don't know. Maybe it's because I went on a date last night. That's all I can think of what it could be." "What do you mean when you say you went on a date? With whom?" "Just a guy from work. There was nothing sexual about it, just dinner and a little dancing." "Sis, let me be clear. Last night you met another guy, had dinner and went dancing, leaving your husband alone at home? Did I really get it right?" "Well, yes, but coming from you, it sounds bad. You are crazy? Do you really think a man like John wouldn't mind if you dated another guy?" "I told him it was just a night out and had nothing to do with sex, just to have a little fun." "God, you're a stupid slut, and I can't believe you're related to me. Now I completely understand why he has a girl in his bed, and to be honest, I don't blame him." Sobbing even more, she picked up the note that was attached to the door and handed it to Mary. "Oh, Helen, you screwed up big time. Perhaps you lost your husband and ended your marriage because of selfishness and stupidity. Look, you can stay here tonight, but tomorrow you have to go back to him and sort things out. I'll call him later and ask him to let you talk to him tomorrow, but I'm not sure that will change anything. You need to prepare for the worst, sis. I know my husband would kick my ass for doing something like that, and John is much more driven than Tom." Helen spent the night alone in Mary's guest room, crying until late in the morning and sleeping very little. Mary texted John and asked him to call her back immediately. John always liked Mary. He knew why she was calling and called her back. "Hello, Mary, how are you?" "Hello, John. My stupid sister is here." She explained what she had done and the events at your house this evening. "I certainly don't blame you, and I have to say that it was a quick little revenge you pulled out there." With a short laugh, he said, "Yes, you know me, Mary. I don't put up with crap." "I know, John. Look, I know she screwed up, but she's a wreck, and I can't treat her like that. You two need to talk about this tomorrow. I don't know if you're actually kicking her out, and I wouldn't blame you, but if she hasn't had sex with this guy yet, you might consider trying to work it out. Maybe some counseling, or maybe we'll put Helen on shock therapy for her damaged brain. Anyway, please let her come back and talk tomorrow." "Mary, of course, she can come back. It's still her home, and I didn't kick her out. She simply won't be with me while she's here. I'm no longer upset or angry. My anger gave way to deep resentment at her betrayal. I'll let her talk, but no promises about the future. Right now, I hate this woman as much as I loved her. At the moment, pain controls my feelings and emotions. It would take a miracle for me to want her back, but you already know that. You are the smartest in the family." "God, I can't believe my sister thought you were okay with her dating some other guy." "What an idiot. Be patient and just know that she loves you. I hope she didn't go too far with that idiot she was with. Bye, Mary. Send her home whenever she wants." "Bye, John. You are my favorite son-in-law, you know." "I know. I love you. Bye, Mary." Sunday afternoon, I returned from the gym to find Helen's car in the driveway and her sitting at the kitchen table. She tried to fake a smile and said, "You know that we are not going to get a divorce. We can work this out because we love each other." I said nothing, took a cup of coffee, and sat down opposite Helen, who was nervously rubbing her hands on her lap. I took a few sips, then looked up at her, and finally broke the silence. "I'm fine with that, Helen. Divorce or no divorce doesn't matter to me anymore, because as soon as you break our marriage contract, the marriage is over. I no longer see us as a couple, and you are free to date and be with whoever you want, just like me. The only thing that will change is that you won't sleep in my bed and we won't be together sexually. It ended the night you went out with your boyfriend. John, he's not my boyfriend, and nothing happened. Helen, you went on a date with a man who is not your husband. You dressed like a slut, went to dinner, held hands, let him touch your ass and breasts, kissed him, and spent time with him. See, that's the problem. To you what you did was nothing, but to me, it was everything. This is what ended our marriage. So you win, no divorce if that's what you want. No, I don't want a divorce. Give us time and I'll come back to your bed. So, are you done with sex with that little slut you were with? I won't put up with this. I started laughing loudly and said, "This is funny. You broke our marriage contract, not me. You left me the minute you agreed to go on a date with your boyfriend. You set me free the moment you got into his car and left your marriage behind. I'm not going to stop spending time with Candy. She is young, sexy, pretty, and funny, and she's an amazing lover. Honestly, this is by far the best sex I've ever had. We did what you never suggested to me, and now I know what I was missing. Why on earth should I give this up? I'm not sure if you don't know this yet, Helen, but last night, while you were out with your boyfriend, I paid a visit to his lovely wife, Stella. Did you know that they have 3 beautiful children? Never mind, I'm sure you didn't even think about it while you were walking with your lover. Anyway, she told me something interesting about Mr. Nice Guy. Did you know that you are the 3rd woman Stella has caught him with in the last year? She also told me that Jessica Wilson from your office was the last wife he cheated with and caused her divorce. Your boy Tommy has a lot of history, but Stella told me he's done. She said she finally realized that once a cheater, always a cheater. I think now you also fall into this category. I think you could find a better lover to cheat on me with, but I don't traitor and I don't know. Looks like you and Tommy managed to destroy 2 families with 5 children. Great job. This shocked her, and I could see her realizing that the guy she had decided to risk her marriage with was just another stud looking for sex. She was angry with herself for her stupidity, and the news that Tommy had destroyed other families horrified her. She was so angry inside that she lost control of herself and shouted at her husband, "John, he's not my boyfriend, and you need to stop saying that. I can't believe you came to her house and told her he was cheating on her. Oh my God, it was just dinner. You are truly cruel and hurtful. What about you? Being with another woman in my home is unforgivable. This must stop. Was it just dinner? Have you forgotten about dirty dancing, kissing, and fondling in the club? I promised Stella copies of all the photos and videos that she could use when Tommy tried to explain that it was just dinner, like you did to me. I understand that in your opinion this is not cheating, but for the rest of the normal world, this is the definition of cheating. Giving yourself to someone outside of your marriage is betrayal. When are you going to get this into your stupid head? So you think I'm cruel and hurtful? I'm curious. How do you define what you did as love and care? No, I won't give up my time with Candy, and if you can't deal with that, you don't have to be here. No, John. I want you to stop dating her and be with me. I won't see anyone again, I promise. You promise? Oh, you promise. Understand. It's funny. You promised to be my wife, abandoning everyone else. And that promise turned out to be unrealistic, didn't it? So, Helen, as far as I'm concerned, if you don't like our agreement, you're free to leave or get a divorce. Maybe you can move in with your lover because he will also need a new place to live. As far as I'm concerned, you two deserve each other. Well, you can stay here or maybe move in with your sister Mary. I'm sure she would be absolutely delighted if you lived there. You would be a great role model for her girls. John, are you going to stop dating this slut? Don't you love me? Don't you want to get back together and be with me? Helen, it's too late for that. The moment you told me you wanted to be with another man, you killed me. Do I love you? I am full of love, but I trust few people. I don't know if I will ever be able to trust and love someone who can leave me so easily. No real man would ever allow his wife to be with another man, but you went and did just that. You told me that you wanted to be with a man outside of our marriage and that you were going to do it no matter what I said. Now that you have betrayed our marriage, you will have to come to terms with my desires. And right now I want to be with Candy, a young, sexy girl who does things for me that I never dreamed of. It's probably not very nice to see me happy with another woman, is it? Well, now you know some of my pain. and now you will reap what you sow. Payback is a bitch, but a damn bad one. Moreover, as for divorce, that's your business. We can stay together as housemates and see how things go, or you can just give me the go-ahead and I'll prepare the divorce papers in a week. Your words, honey, don't mean anything to me, I said in an authoritative tone. She knew how serious I was and had no intention of challenging me at that moment. For the next month, I brought Candy home and into my bed every weekend. We had sex several times a day, and it was exciting. She made me feel good and helped me regain the confidence I had lost due to Helen's betrayal. Helen hated weekends and begged me to stop dating Candy, but I continued to have fun. Helen left as soon as Candy and I got home Saturday night, and she didn't come back until Candy left. I agreed with Helen to send her a message after Candy left. I had to admit that I enjoyed the sex as well as the pain Helen was experiencing, but the guilt crept back into my soul. The next week, after realizing that it was just sex with Candy, albeit great sex, I realized that there was no real intimacy, and the money I was paying was becoming too expensive. After Helen returned on Sunday night, I announced that I wouldn't be dating Candy for a while and said that I was going to look for another girl to be with. Helen begged me to take her back and stop seeing other women. She said she knew she made a mistake and didn't want anyone else in her life but me. John, you have punished me enough. Every week, I had to see this girl come into my house and stay with the only man I love. The pain is too strong, and I can't calmly watch you with another woman. Please give me a chance. I know I can't compete with a girl like this, but I can give you love and something that no one else can. Her comment took me by surprise. Love? Do you even know what this is, Helen? Love does not mean turning your back on your spouse to announce that you are going to date other men. No, I don't think you know what love really is, and therefore there is no way to give what you don't have. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I will not meet with anyone until we have consulted. If we can figure this out, then maybe we can have a future together. She jumped off the couch, hugged me, and kissed every part of my face and finally my lips. Oh, thank you, baby. I promise I will make it up to you. Not so fast. I don't forgive you for what you did. I'm just giving us one last chance before I get rid of your cheating ass. John, don't say that. You love me, and I know that we will always be together. Can I sleep with you tonight, please? She asked, kissing me. No, not yet. I still see images of you and that guy in my head. The image of you kissing another man and letting him touch the parts of you that are rightfully mine still haunts me every minute of the day. I'm furious with you for recklessly hurting me and ruining our marriage. You're incredibly lucky our kids don't know about this. Otherwise, I wonder what they would think of their whore mother. You can tell I'm still angry about what you did. Let's take our time and see how this works with counseling. I made an appointment with Dr. Madison for that Tuesday and began a fascinating journey of reliving the event, the pain, and the anguish twice a week for the next 3 months. It was the same therapeutic bullshit you read about in every other story, and just as painful. I had to relive this novel, and then listen to all this crazy chatter for hours. Life would have been so much simpler if only she had stayed true to our vows, but I think that was too much to ask. After 3 months of consultations twice a week, we figured it out. Helen saw how much pain she caused and understood my reaction. She complained that my revenge sex was much worse, but I explained that she had broken our contract and given me freedom the moment she agreed to date another man. In the end, she understood, but she still wasn't happy. The consultant, however, gave me a lot of grief about my revenge, but I didn't really care. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I let her back, concluding after marriage an agreement where she gives up everything for any extramarital affair. She agreed to a GPS tracker on her phone, access to her email and text messages, and complete honesty without deception. I explained that we would have a zero-tolerance policy in our house, and I would kick her out for any kind of infidelity, emotional or physical. She told me that she would never let another man flirt with her again, and she would forever remain faithful. I listened, but continued to hear Stella's words. Once a deceiver, always a deceiver. A year later, we were back to where we were before her outburst. But now I kept a much closer eye on my wife, knowing that it could happen again. Her sister Mary and I worked together to make sure Helen didn't go astray again. Tommy's divorce was costly. His wife kicked him out, received a house, benefits for 3 children, and alimony. Tommy was now living in a studio apartment with no extra money after paying for his infidelity. Ironically, Tommy lost it all for dinner, a few dances, a few fawnings, and a few kisses. What a moron. Helen was devastated when she learned about Tommy's previous affairs and how he caused Jennifer's divorce. When she found out that Tommy had been cheating on his wife and family with several other women, she realized how her stupidity had nearly ruined her life and the love of her family. She would never make a mistake like that again and was determined to prove her love to John and the children. True to her word, she remained true to him. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't forget watching this young girl ride her husband, and she would never give him the chance to do it again. After all, he belonged to her. Sorry, Tommy, but cheating with a married woman can be an expensive hobby. It can also be painful if he chose the wrong husband. He was lucky that John wasn't that kind of person, but if he had gone all the way and fucked his wife, well, things would have ended very differently. The funny thing about unwitting cuckolds is that they never forget and eventually take revenge. One night, 2 years after he had divorced his wife Jennifer from Helen's office, Douglas, a reluctant cuckold, was in a pub car park as Tommy was about to get into his car. About an hour later, another pub patron found Tommy face down, unconscious, on the pavement with 2 broken arms, a broken rib, and problems in the groin area. Time will tell if Tommy ever learns his lesson. One wise man once said, "Not a single scar on my heart left from the enemy. They came from people who said they love me,